First News with Keeler in the morning on WIBX and WIBX950.com.
Prescription products require completion of an online medication consultation with an independent healthcare provider through the LifeMD platform and are only available if prescribed. Subscription required. Individual results may vary. Additional restrictions apply. Read all warnings before using GLP-1s. Side effects may include a risk of thyroid C-cell tumors. Do not use GLP-1s if you or your family have a history of thyroid cancer.
If you've struggled for years to lose weight and have given up hope, did you know you can now access GLP-1 prescription medications at TryLifeMD.com? We're now offering eligible patients online access to GLP-1s, the breakthrough prescription medication that can help you lose body fat and weight. Listen to what people are saying.
It's fun to put on jeans that you couldn't get into 6 months ago.
Every morning, I look forward to getting on the scale.
For anybody who's struggling with their weight, it's a godsend.
And here's the best part. Your insurance may cover 100% of the cost of your medication. So go to TryLifeMD.com to have your eligibility checked right now. Get started today at TryLifeMD.com. That's TryLifeMD.com.
On the line right now is Dr. Kent Hall from MVHS. Doc, good morning.
Good morning. How are you doing this morning?
Good. Dr. Hall, of course, is the Chief Physician Executive, answers our questions on COVID-19 and other medical questions. Let us start with a few things that we're learning. Yesterday, the president announcing nationwide it's going 16 plus for the vaccine in 2 weeks. We're already there. Yes,
we are, and that's a good thing. It's actually what's a little concerning, and you mentioned it a little while ago, is that a number of people continue to be a little resistant to getting the vaccine, and there's been a lot of work to reach out to individual communities to see if we can break through some of that hesitancy, because we're going to need to get as many people vaccinated as possible. We have available vaccine appointments here at Mohawk Valley within the health system for our pods, and I believe they're also available. There are open slots really around the county, whether it's the county or the state or even some of the other healthcare facilities.
The CDC is being criticized today in regards to not being quicker and talking about the fact that this virus is airborne and that surface cleaning, that really just basic soap and water would clean the virus away. And they've been a little late in informing people of that. Your thoughts?
Yeah, we've always known, and I'm pretty sure that the CDC has been out there saying that it is primarily certainly primarily an airborne virus. That there have been studies that show that it does exist, that it can live on different surfaces for different periods of time, but that is not the way that it is primarily spread. So I'm not sure exactly what the criticism is of it. Is it that they haven't downplayed that aspect more, or is it that they haven't upplayed the fact that it's really about respiratory issues?
Interestingly, we're learning that outdoors is very, very good for us and the virus. Not very good for spreading the virus. We learned that last summer, I think. And it's interesting that the cold weather states are the ones that tend to be increasing, with the exception of Florida is one of the states that is on the rise right now. And you got to kind of wonder if Florida has anything to do with what was going on in places like Miami a few weeks ago.
No, I think you're spot on with that. That we do know that being outside and does allow for more dispersion of the smaller droplets. They get carried away in the wind, and they and so there's certainly less of an opportunity for you to be breathing them in. Also, when you're outside, you just have more space, so you're not as close to people. Whereas what we saw in Florida, over spring break was, even outside, people were packed pretty close together. And that's also why you have to be concerned with things like sporting events. Even though they're outside, baseball stadiums and things like that, you get people, sitting, within 18 inches of each other, or two feet of each other if you've got a packed stadium, and and you're there for 3 hours or more, then that is a recipe for increasing spread.
I want to read this to you, another story that is out there this morning. It's found that 34% of COVID-19 survivors received a diagnosis for a neurological or psychological condition within 6 months of their infection, according to a study published on Tuesday in the journal Lancet Psychology. The most common diagnosis was anxiety, found in 17% of those treated for COVID-19, followed by mood disorders, found in 14% of patients. Are you seeing any of that?
Yeah, so we are certainly, and I believe that comes from two areas. Number one is, people get sick with COVID, and given what we've been going through and the amount of news that has been focused on it, and the fact that it is not a good disease to get because you can get acutely ill, or you can recover from it, and then you can have the long hauler issue, and so it's not surprising that people will have a degree of anxiety. What's going to happen to me? How am I going to manage this, etc. And so that's one. The other is that we do know that this virus does affect the brain and the nerves. That's why you lose your sense of taste and smell. That's why you have people get different types, Bell's palsy and the tingling in the extremities. That's all related to the fact that it's affecting the nerves. So you put those two things together, and it's not surprising that psychological effects are going to be not only acute but also follow up for a period of time.
I will tell you, I do think that that's interesting, because it could be neurological, but it could also just be the emotions of dealing with those long hauler symptoms, the frustration.
That's absolutely correct, and I have not had to do that. Lucky me, knock wood. But I would say that people that I have talked to that have, it is very frustrating for them, and they get the amount of mental energy that they expend trying to overcome it and trying to redirect their lives and stuff, whether it's loss of taste or smell or the brain fog or all of those things is really amazing. So.
Okay, Monaski.
Got a question here from John about hair loss. He says he started losing his hair, and he's in his mid to late 60s. Wanted to ask Dr. Hall about loss of hair. Is that part of having the virus? When I was sick, and in fact, he was hospitalized, he said it started coming out in clumps, even on my thighs and calves. I had red marks on my calves. The skin was peeling like I had been burned by the sun. Ultimately, I had to take prednisone. You know anything about that?
So I haven't seen anything about the virus per se causing hair loss. What we call is alopecia in the medical vernacular, but I will say that the stress of being ill, whether it's from this virus or from other things, does cause hair loss or can cause hair loss. So it may be related to that, and certainly there are other reasons for it too. There are autoimmune causes of hair loss. There are a number of reasons, and so it could very well be that this virus, while not it being a direct effect, is certainly contributory to it.
All right.
I have a question here. This is a little off the COVID path, but it says, can you ask Dr. Hall about Dr. Blankafleur? Bill K.
I know
knows.
Dr. Blankafleur.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Dr. B is one of the best and most progressive surgeons in our community. The loss of his tail.
My surgery right? on my robotic surgery on my colon. Yep.
I have a listener asking about that. Is there anything you can say about that?
No, Dr. Blankafleur is really a fine surgeon here in Mohawk Valley. He's the medical director for our robotic program. He's a good doc.
Is he leaving? Do you know?
We're having conversations with him. We certainly would very much like him to stay.
Sure. Okay. All right. Well, he's got at least two fans.
Well, I'm a fan. There's no doubt about it. I am
Make
a
it
fan.
three.
I want to bring in Mark in New Hartford. Mark, good morning.
Yes, good morning, everybody. I have a two-part question. My wife and I are in our 60s. I am 65 and diabetic. We have both had the vaccinations. We're all set there. Now, last night, we learned that our 5-year-old grandson was exposed through his other grandfather, who has just tested positive for COVID, and he spent the weekend with him. The two-part question is, A, does our 5-year-old grandson have to quarantine with the rest of the family? And B, because we've been inoculated, is it safe for us to be near this grandson?
Good question.
No, that's an excellent question. So the answer to your first question is yes, your 5-year-old grandson should quarantine because it sounds like he had what would be called a significant exposure if he spent any length of time with the other grandfather who did test positive. And obviously neither one was masked, et cetera, et cetera. So the answer to the first question would be yes. The answer to the second question is, you certainly would be protected. At least that's a presumption. Again, it's 95%. So there is always a 5% chance that you wouldn't be. So I would say, out of an abundance of caution, and given the fact that you do have comorbidities, it's probably a good idea for you to not have significant contact for the next 10 days. That would be my
just to be safe. Yeah.
Okay. Can I ask one more question?
Very quick. I have 20 seconds here.
Oh, yeah. His brother did not go to the same place and stay for the length of time, but
would the brother be okay?
The brother have to also quarantine now that they're back together.
15 seconds, Doc.
Separate situation.
Yeah. So an exposure of an exposure does not need to be quarantined because the grandson, the primary grandson, has not tested positive.
I'm going to let you both go. Mark, thank you. It's always the other grandfather. Dr. Hall, thank you.